In this presentation, we discuss the results of 7 pre-emergent herbicide trials in ratoon cane in far north Queensland. These trials were part of the project called Developing an Alternative Herbicide Management Strategy to replace PS2 herbicides in the wet tropics, run by SRA weed agronomist Emily Phelos and funded by SRA and the Queensland Government. Trial sites were located in the Daintree, Mulgrave, Innisfail and Tully districts. All sites were trash-blanketed ratoons. 5 herbicides were compared. Barrage was included at both the high label rate, which is illegal for use in the wet tropics, and at the allowable rate for the wet tropics. The high rate was included as a reference. A new pre-emergent herbicide, Valor, was not available when these trials were conducted. The trials were carried out from 2014 to 2016. Weed cover was assessed over approximately 10 weeks following initial weed emergence and compared to unsprayed plots. Results from the individual trials have been grouped in order to compare performance trends over seasons and different site conditions. Let's look at each herbicide's overall performance. The charts show the average results of 7 trials over 2 seasons. Bobcat IMAX and Barrage at high rate gave the best overall control, both for length of control and for the widest range of weeds. This is expected as both products are mixtures. You can see that even after 70 days of assessment, both these herbicides maintained about 80% reduction in total weed cover compared to unsprayed. Flame, Barrage at low rate, and Balance as a group gave similar control but were not as effective across the total range of weeds and conditions. You can see that overall weed control dropped off from an average of about 70% to around 40%. Both Flame and Balance are single ingredient herbicides and in some situations fail to control some specific weeds. We'll have a look at that shortly. Clincher Plus is shown as the bottom line on the chart, which shows that it did not give adequate control in a trash blanket ratoon. You can see that each herbicide is in one of 3 groups, relating to overall control of a broad range of weeds and across 2 seasons. Let's now look at how each herbicide controlled different weed types, starting with grass control. These next charts show the average control over about 70 days. Bobcat IMAX, Barrage at high rate and Flame generally gave the best control of grasses, averaging from nearly 90% to 75% weed cover reduction. Balance averaged a reduction of about 65% over roughly 70 days. Clincher Plus and Barrage at low rate gave poor control of grasses on the trash blanketed ratoons. Herbicide performance may be reduced by the presence of specific grasses. Imazepec, the active in Flame, Spark or Impose, does not control crowsfoot grass. Now we'll see how each herbicide controlled broadleaf weeds. Barrage high rate and Bobcat IMAX gave the best and most consistent control of broadleaf weeds, maintaining a high control over the full 70 days of assessment. Both are mixtures and a combination of active ingredients would be expected to control a broader range of weeds. Barrage, low rate and Flame were less effective, with about 65 to 70% control over the assessment time. Balance underperformed in these trials because it does not control squareweed very well. Clincher Plus, with the active ingredient metallochlor, did not give adequate control of broadleafs in the trash blanket ratoons. Lastly, how well did the herbicides control vines? Herbicide performance against vines vary between sites due to the presence or absence of particular vine species. Generally, Barrage and Bobcat IMAX were effective against a wider range of vines than the others. Again, this is largely because each contains 2 active ingredients, providing a broader range of control. Balance worked well in these trials because calipo vine was much more prevalent than convolvulus vines. Balance works well on calipo. Clincher Plus did not perform well on the trash blanket ratoons. Calipo vine reduced the effectiveness of Flame on some sites. whilst convolvulus vines reduce the effectiveness of balance on other sites. Let's have a look at some of the trial sites. Always read product labels to understand how a herbicide should be used. For example, imazapic and isoxaflutol can cause crop injury through root uptake on some soil types. The wet tropics is the most heavily regulated area for diuron-based herbicides. These trials show that alternative herbicides to diuron can achieve good weed control, but for some, the user needs to know if there are specific limitations. For more detail on these trials, contact SRA. We would value your opinion on future weed management research. Please take 10 minutes to complete the online survey by clicking on the link in the email you received.